Edit, guys, I appreciate the advice, but I'm not asking on how to get past the infidelity. I've made my decision, and it's not something I'm willing to forgive. I'm looking for advice on how to handle this with my kids, and how to reassure them we can still be a family even if we aren't married. My wife and I have been together for 18 years. We had our ups and downs, but overall our marriage has been solid and she was my best friend. We've always been very close with our children and have raised them very much as a unit, and in turn they're very close to us. About 2 weeks ago I brought up an advice column in the paper I had read regarding infidelity, and talked about it for a bit. And I could see she had clearly started to tear up and was attempting to hide it. So I asked her what was bothering her. She confessed that about 7 years ago she cheated on me with a former coworker on a business trip, and then once with him after that before breaking it off due to guilt. This was around the time she left that job for a new one, which she had told me back then was due to feeling like it wasn't a good fit, but now confesses was because she didn't want to work with him anymore. She says she never had a good reason for it. She knew it was wrong then but gave in to the urge, and nothing has ever happened since. Claims she confessed now as she can't live with the guilt of hiding it from me. We talked about for the next 3 days when the kids were in school while trying our best not to let them know while they were home. I realized I knew I'd never be able to let this go, nor would I be able to forgive her. She's distraught. We sat our kids down to tell them about the fact our marriage was ending. Obviously this was extremely tough. They acted as one could expect and blame was thrown at both of us. My wife and I agreed to tell them it was mutual, but I guess guilt got the better of her again because she ends up crying and telling them not to blame me. That she betrayed my trust in the past and just told me now, and that it's all her fault. This had the opposite effect that she intended, and now both our kids absolutely resent me for not forgiving Mom and ruining our family. My wife has repeatedly tried to put blame back on herself, which only makes the kids double down and defend her more as if she's the victim. I don't want to drag their mother through the mud, so I'm trying to explain as tactfully as I can. But they're gone as far as saying that when I get my own apartment they don't want to see me anymore and refuse my suggestion of seeing a therapist together and reject the idea that I still plan to see them on a regular basis and be on good terms with their mother. My wife isn't helping matters as she's been an emotional wreck since I've told her of my plan to leave. I love my kids, but I don't know how to make them understand this without dragging their mother through the mud. I don't know how to assure them this has nothing to do with them or that I'm not trying to punish or hurt their mom. I just know that I cannot get past this, and for my own happiness I need to leave. Any suggestions on how to get them to stop seeing me as the villain would be helpful. Update 2. Polygraph went well. STBXW got checked into a rehab center. However, twins overheard I'm not their father. Just as the title says, this clusterfuck is what I've been dealing with since my last update. I had attempted to update earlier, but had a mental breakdown towards the end and couldn't keep the post up. Also, I moved out of my friend's place and got a place to rent. It was difficult, but the was helpful by recommending me to a friend of his looking to rent out a place. I felt that it would be safer for them to have their own room, and I'm tired of sleeping on a couch. The polygraph was insightful. The was who he said he was, which was a relief. He had no knowledge of my STBXW's marital status and genuinely wants to be in the twins' lives. His motivation wasn't as intense as I assumed. He just really wanted to be a dad, and none of his previous relationships panned out. I had heard from my STBXW's sister that she was checked into a rehab center and began the process to recovery. At least it would make serving her papers a lot more simple. However, the main issue was the fact that the twins definitely overheard I'm not their father during their time with their mother. I knew they were acting strange since I took them with me. They clung to me far more intensely than normal, asking me worrying questions like if they were adopted or whether I was gonna run away again. I had chalked it up to what they'd gone through while they were with their mother due to how difficult it was to get them to talk about it. They would just ask the question and run away once I answered, only to return and demand I let them sit on my lap to watch me work or to play with them. I would try discussing what their feelings were like only for them to shut down and then flee. At that point, I had set up an appointment for a therapist to see them. I guess at some point, they couldn't handle it and one of them came to me sobbing while I was asleep and just hugged me. Sherry, false name for convenience, was the one who clung to me the most during this period, which concerned me even before that point. She was the type who disliked physical contact with a passion. Words were flying out of her mouth, but they were too fast and out of order for me to understand. It took an hour before I even got her to calm down enough to be understandable, and even then it was up to me to make it make sense. But here's the gist of it. None of this are actual statements and a lot of it is from my observation. Assumptions. and piecing together broken statements. During my absence, their mother took to heavily drinking at night and would be inexplicably absent. She's the kind of drunk who talks loud, and that was the case when Sherry went down one night to watch her. Well, if I was correct in my assumption, this was around the time I texted her that I knew the twins weren't mine and she must have gone ballistic. Sherry told me that their mother was yelling that I should have been able to love them as if they were mine and not to run away. So me coming back, that must have made them think all of that wasn't true. My behavior during their time with me, however, must have made them concerned. They noticed the drop in my gestures of affection. They wanted more hugs, more lap sitting, more piggyback rides, and so on, but I simply couldn't do it as much as I used to. I try, I really do, but I can't stop feeling like I shouldn't do those. I've talked to my therapist about it, and she's told me that's common for men struggling with paternity. Only time will tell what I can and can no longer do. My original plan of breaking it to them slowly with a professional at the ready is completely in the gutter. Now I'm playing cleanup. They have had their first in-person therapy session about 3 days ago and 2 online sessions before that. So far, no mention of me not being the father has been brought up. We've mostly been focusing on what they had seen and how that made them feel. I can't go into much detail here. The post would go on for too long. So that's my situation right now. It's been a month since I first discovered everything, and I can't believe so much has happened in so little time. I've had divorce papers ready for a week now and just need to decide whether I'll still be financially responsible for the twins or whether that will be the biological parents. Should I decide not to be, I'll need to make a petition to take me off the birth certificate, which then automatically means I will have no grounds to fight for custody. I won't deny that I want a family with my blood, and I want to be able to fully support them without having to pay child support to my STBXW. In the end, I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. I'll have to sacrifice so much for either option, and there's no clear right thing to do. I must either sacrifice a chance to have children of my own or sacrifice the twins that I've raised and loved for 8 years. Most of you must be baffled by this, but it's actually suffocating for me. Each passing second is like a noose that gets tighter and tighter.